Welcome to Krachtwerken, and I hope I'm not going to step on toes, but I've been watching guitar-related, pedal-related, amp-related YouTube videos for years, and it's been a weird, it's been a very weird journey, I think, from watching the first people to now. Now, I probably started watching in about 2014, 2013, 2014, and also started making some pedal demos and stuff like that, trying to get the YouTube thing going. And then we started doing other businesses and kind of fell away a bit. And then the monetization was taken away until you've got like what 1,000 subscribers and stuff like that. But it was interesting in the beginning because it was kind of pedal demos, and there was the odd person here and there who was talking about how you should record and how you should mic your amp and which amp you should buy and all this kind of stuff. And everything that was said in those videos in the beginning was, in my opinion, from memory at least, a parroting of everything I read years before that on forums like home recording forums and guitar related forums. It was basically just a parroting of the same thing. And very soon it was clear that everybody was saying exactly the same thing. And then you've got people like Glenn Fricker, who made a big hula and spiel about certain things as well. I'm using him because he was quite vocal about certain things, which, in my opinion, was, at the time at least, dare I say, a parroting of what was said in the past. Things like vintage 30s and SM57s and where to mic it and all those kind of things. So it was interesting that that kind of continued for a while, and that if you posted something, you posted a pedal, a board, or what, there was always the same stuff. Somebody would always say something that essentially was an obvious parroting of a kind of accepted norm. I'm going to say an accepted knowledge because I think that's a different thing altogether. I would say an accepted norm. You've got to have true bypass pedals. Um, you got to have these kind of plugs, these kind of power supplies. It has to be, has to be, has to be. There was no leeway in certain things. And but over time, it's changed, and I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people have stopped with this sort of thing. I'm gonna use Glenn because he said a lot of things years ago that he's kind of changed his mind about. Vintage V30s, SM57, click track when recording, especially metal. These few come to mind, at least at the moment. And over time, you probably heard the narrative kind of change to, hey, do what you like, experiment, use real drums, if you need to, maybe do things a little bit different, or if you want to add something, maybe, use a sample here and there, etc., etc. And so what I find interesting about that is because certain people in the guitar community came from this original kind of accepted norm, and then over time, through their interest and through their engagement in this kind of guitar and pedal and amp society and recording society, and speaking to professionals that have done it for years, commercially and successfully, they realized, well, these norms are forum norms. They're not really a practical practice norms. And so they've all changed their tune. And I think that is so commendable because it means that it is a person. These are people who, just like me and just like anybody else who really is interested in this sort of thing, realizes that you you never stop learning, and you should be able to accept if what you've thought of in the past could actually be bullshit, or at least not the only way to do things. The way I see it, there's still a lot of it, especially on the kind of Facebook kind of groups that deal with stuff like that. I mean, roast my board, and the first thing you'll hear somebody say is like, you should change that power supply. Those are not true bypass, or Boss true bypass pedals are shit, or it is all these kind of things that you've kind of heard a gazillion times. The the Metal Zone is a good example. Love it, hate it. The reason people love and hate it is because, in my opinion, I used the Metal Zone as an overdrive pedal for years, because it was actually very flexible. If you kind of, don't want to say if you know how to use it, but if you don't accept it for what it is and you kind of play with it, you actually get damn fine drive through it. It doesn't always have to sound like a bunch of bees in a tin can. Anyway, point is, it seems to me like just in politics, just in every facet of life that we have at this moment, we've got this Dunning-Kruger Effect happening. And the Dunning-Kruger Effect, which I'll play in the video, is essentially this idea that a certain set of people, in this video they call them kind of stupider people or dumb people, whatever, it's irrelevant. The point is, there's a certain subset of people who, the moment that they know something about a new subject that were interested in, they immediately think that, okay, this is it, I know it all. When the fact of real knowledge is kind of, the more I know, the less I know, basically. You know, the more I know, the more I know what I don't know, and I have to keep going there. So I'm just going to play this because I find this really interesting, and I think it really relates to this bigger community, this tribalism, this kind of set in their ways, there's only one way to do things. And I think that although there's not a guitar or a pedal inside in this video, I hope that this is an eye-opener to anybody who might be stuck in their ways, or, you know, if you want to play metal, you can only buy a Mesa Boogie or a 5150, you know. These kind of mindsets, to kind of make sure that they understand that they need to break out of this if they want to be not knowledgeable, but actually enhance their hobby, you know, reach different ideas, reach different tones, different ways of working. So I'm just going to play this because I found this really interesting. I'll link to the full video in the comments.
Let's look at this graphically, plotting one's confidence in your ability against one's actual knowledge in a field. As we learn something new, we are often highly confident because we know so little that as soon as we know a tiny bit, we think we know it all. Those who stop learning here maintain a false sense of mastery. Those who continue learning realize things are more complex and often lose motivation. And the more they increase their knowledge, the lower their confidence becomes. Many stop at this stage, thinking they've learned nothing. Only if we keep going can we regain confidence while getting better. And at the end, we will be full of knowledge and almost as confident in our ability as right after we started. In other words, if a simpleton, a good student, and a wise teacher were to have a public debate, this is how things could go down. The simpleton knows just a little bit, but is very confident and voices his opinions loud and without hesitations. The student knows more, but doesn't realize it because she lacks confidence. She keeps quiet. The teacher is confident, but understands how complex things really are. Hence voices his opinions with reservations. In the end, the simpleton wins the popular vote because he is so confident about being right, and people tend to trust certainty. Research from North America, Europe, and Japan suggests that culture plays a big role. From assessments of one's own ability to drive, we know that 93% of Americans think they are better drivers than average, while only 69% of Swedish think so. In Japan, on the other hand, People in general tend to underestimate their abilities as a strategy to see their underachievement as an opportunity to improve. Setting out on a journey of learning can be a daunting.
So I think we've all seen all of these aspects in our
Setting out on a journey.
in our day-to-day lives. I just want to go back to this one. So to me, so firstly, let's talk politics, right? So what happened in the UK, Australia, and the US, this is fucking classic, right? The big shouty fucking idiot wins the popular vote. Not the popular vote, but wins whatever he needs to win, right? All the kind of reflective, I don't want to say smart people, because it's not about intelligence. It's about humility, it's about reflection, it's about interest, it's about digging deeper, it's about critical thinking. So, I mean, just these three show it. I mean, typical kind of like Western, I don't want to say just American, because I think Brits and certain countries have the same issue. They all think they're great drivers, they all think that what they're thinking is right, their political views are correct, blah, 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 and they're big and loud about it. And if anybody feels differently, then they're kind of ostracized in their opinion and they don't know what they're talking about and their opinions don't matter and a rift is caused. And then you go to kind of like the Nordics, who are the ones I know personally are kind of usually quite intelligent, very kind of world-wise, interested in a lot of topics, knowledgeable, intelligent, and they kind of think things through. But they're not the top of the list because they're kind of in the middle somewhere. They just do their thing and they try and do things well, right? And then you've got the Japanese, who are so about pride in what they do, and everything has to be perfect because there's a cultural thing around that their products are usually amazing and perfect, and the cars are better, the guitars are better, their knives are better, everything is just always pretty good. Anyway, so I just thought this was a classic graphic, but I think you can see what I'm getting at. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect is the biggest problem with it. Actually, is that people who suffer from it don't know it. So I could be suffering from it. I wouldn't know it because I would say, well, I know this and that, so now I know something. Somebody else says something to the contrary. I'll go, what the hell, man? You're stupid. Listen to me. Instead of going, well, that's an interesting point of view. Let me research that. Let's apply some critical thinking and see who else says what about that same topic. So there you go. The Dunning-Kruger effect in the guitar community. Yeah. I think that's also why Gent has become so popular, because everybody thought that that's the new thing, when actually it's just basically techno played on an instrument. But anyway, that's just me. Anyway, thank you very much. Till next time.